Well, here we are on Lake Vyrnwy, and this was yesterday and today in terms of the amount of water in the stream. So there you are, you can see it, and today it's much lower, but there was a huge amount of rain. So this is our Komoot page, Lake Vyrnwy, and we go round the lake, but we also have a huge panoramic climb to do. And you can see we started off pretty much with the climb. We went up and then that was pretty steep, came back down again. Those two peaks there, I think we just lost the signal. So this is where we start. We start at the very top in the centre there where it says A, and then we followed our way down and then off towards on that single track all the way up to the viewpoint, which is hundreds of feet up, then turned round, came back, and then went all the way around the lake. The trip round the lake is dead easy. The climb up to the viewpoint is tough in places. It's long, but it is really nice. Those of you that like road cycling and like a bit of climbing, you won't have any trouble with that at all. The whole of the route is on tarmac roads. There is no non-tarmac, so it's suitable for almost any bike. I wouldn't say the climb is suitable for children, and the problem with the lake as far as children is concerned is that there's a lot of cars that's around there. So just be very, very careful. But it's a nice view. I preferred the climb, actually was the best bit. I thought the trip round the lake was okay. It's supposed to be very pretty, but I wasn't too taken with it. There's too much stuff around the sides. Here we are leaving the car park and we're heading down, and you can see that the lake is on our left, but you can't see much of it because there's trees all the time, and the road is a little bit more than single track, but it'd be pretty tight if there were two cars coming in opposite directions, and it's like that for much of the way around the lake. So we follow around that big sweep, and then coming up in a minute we're going to get this turn here, and that's where we're going to turn. There's a little blue sign, and you can see a sign on the left, and we're going to turn up here, and that is our beginning of our climb. And you can see it's a much more minor road. It really is a single car width. We do meet occasional cars going up to the top. They're trying to save themselves a bit of a journey. Now you could of course start almost anywhere on this journey, but we don't recommend anybody parks up here. These are passing spaces, not parking spaces. There is a car park further up, but you don't have to go very far before the views open up and it gets really quite pretty. So I would recommend starting with this bit of lake simply because the ride is so pretty. The climb is long and not too bad here because it's so steep. We stopped, took the odd photo, and yeah, that was quite a long stop. Right, off we go. But in some places when we get a bit further on, the road is flooded, so if you were doing this in the middle of the winter when it was icy, I would be very careful because it's usually on the slightly flatter bits where you'd be going very fast. But you can see there's already water even here running across the road from the steep slope on our right, and there's a steep valley on our left. There was another cyclist coming down, and there's lots of stopping spaces, and we did stop on a fairly regular basis to take photos and to have a glass of water. Glass? Who has glasses of water on the bike? You know, I'm just losing it these days. Apologise for my voice, that's a post-COVID gravelly voice. So we're continuing up, and you can now see that it's pretty much more open and it's barren. It did get a little bit windy and there was occasional spatters of rain, but it was pretty. And then we've got a quick descent down this bit and then a bit more of a climb, but there is the odd bit of descent. You can spot the low bits because the water's just pouring across the road. Through a few farms, and there are quite a few cattle grids that we have to pass over. So this is all part of the climb. None of this is anything to do with going around the lake. And you can see here we're just getting higher and higher. And that hill you can see in the distance is what we will be aiming at. So we've got to follow all of that route. It's absolutely stunning. If you're a road cyclist and you like really beautiful long runs up hills, then this is the one. And if you're wondering why I keep swerving from one side of the road to the other, well, partly it's because the wind was incredibly strong, but the other reason is, as an entomologist, I was often just a botanist looking at what I could see beside the road. So as we ascend, you can see here we've got to a particularly wet patch of the road, and those in the winter could become icy, and some of these puddles were quite deep. And that was a bit of a struggle, but you're surrounded by this cotton grass and heather. Interestingly, at this time of the year, you can expect to see the dwarf gorse out in flower, adding a yellow colour. But we didn't actually see any up here, but we did see some what we call western gorse, which is quite unusual. Now we're heading towards the top of the ridge now, and we've just passed a few bits, and here we get to the place which is right at the very top. You're looking down into the town below, and we're going to turn right at this point and head up towards the peak. So we turn right here, and that's where there is a car park at the top if you wanted to start from that point. And we now start heading up towards the top of the peak, and where we're aiming at is not far around the corner here. This bit felt particularly steep, I must admit, and felt pretty tough, but I'm sure for the road cyclist among you that is nothing. But we're heading just around this next corner. This is where the car park is found, and the entrance to the views over the top of the hills. So as we get round the corner here, we just head left, and this is a little car park. There's a picnic space you can sit, and that's where we left our bike for a while and went round and just had a little look at the views. They're pretty stunning from the top. I can see some good distances. And then the next task is to go back down this hill. So we got on the bike again, and this second part of the ride is much quicker because, as you can imagine, we've taken out this ride. So there's a left turn there, and we're just going to follow this track down. Now you do reach quite a considerable speed, and sometimes those cattle grids are on a bit of a curve, so watch out for those, they can get slippery. And the other thing to watch out for is with the speed here, fortunately we've got disc brakes, but sometimes there's a car in the road around the corner and it maybe is not going at the speed you think it is. Or we had one case where the car was just literally at 90 degrees in the middle of the road, decided to do a U-E, and not in the most sensible place. We'll probably see that in a minute. We're going quite a speed, and there we are. Car right in the middle of the road. And in fact, we were not far off its pace as we descended the hill. It's pretty amazing as to how quickly you can get down to the bottom again. And we're not far off at this point. The sign is the next cattle grid that you'll see just before the bottom. Head down into the woods over that cattle grid, and that's it. And then we turn right at this point and we follow round. Now this is the road around the lake, and it's got a moderate amount of traffic on it. You know, if your kids are grown up, then that'll be fine. But just be aware that there is, you know, sometimes there'll be cars going in both directions trying to pass you. So be sensitive of that. But you can see that on the left there, you don't always get a particularly good view of the lake. There are stopping places, and it's great for people in cars. But we followed our way round, and it does start to open up a little bit lower down. But it's fairly level as well, and that's the great thing about this part of the lake, is that it's almost completely flat. Those peaks that are shown on the gradient chart, well, they didn't exist. I think we just lost the signal at that point. But you can see there's lots of passing spaces, which is another indication as to how narrow the road is. But I tell you, the ride to it is fabulous. We came from right over the tops of the hills, and there's some stunning places on the way there. So we're working our way around to the more open place, and we stopped it off at this car park simply because there were some nice views and wondered if there was anywhere to stop for a picnic. There were picnic tables, but there was also a cafe there and a lot of people, so we decided to move on for a little bit further. So here we come, and there's a boat club not far around here, and this is the one where we stopped off at, and we watched, had a bite to eat, and then we headed off. And you're not that far away now from the dam, so we head round the corner. Here we are on the dam, and we use this as an opportunity to stop and have a little look around. So we parked up, and there's some great places to see. Some of these bits of video footage show my hand, of course, but really pretty. And then we headed off across the dam. Watch out for the cars, turn left and just follow around. Slightly better view this side, big trees, but then the road seems to veer away from the edge of the lake in places. So as we get round this next corner, we seem to be leaving the lake behind a little bit, and then we return back to it. So again, reasonable pace along here. It's again continues to be pretty level, and the sign that we're nearly back home is a large bridge area with a lay-by just before where we stopped and have a little drink. Watch out for the tractors and the forestry. So here we come. There's a big stone bridge up here, I think. Maybe a little bit further, but we're not far off here. Oh, bit of an estate here, yes, we can see on the right hand side. That was quite interesting to have a look, and there was a bit of a lay-by we stopped in just around the next corner, I think. It is just generally fairly interesting looking at all of the farm agricultural areas and other things, and there was quite a lot of wildlife that we saw. So there we've stopped, and the place we're going is just literally over this next bridge. So here we get to the bridge with the white railings around it, and it's just after that first rock. You can see a sign here. Notice the fact that there are portaloos in the campsite, and that's it for that journey. So here is the route. We started at the top there, followed down and headed off that side place, which is all climb, virtually all the way to the end, turned round, headed back around the lake, over the dam, and then returned to our starting point. So if you want to find our route, here we are, and you can download the GPS file, the GPX file, to your GPS device that you've got, follow it or load it into Komoot. That's it for us from Snowdonia, though we may add in something else, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the Yorkshire Dales. Bye.